Hello and welcome everybody. 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. I hope you all enjoyed last week's show on not all deals are good deals. Anyone who sells anything, I think, understands where I'm coming from when I say that. This week is a fun episode. This is someone that I've been following for a long time, have seen the journey, and now works within an auto group and has this really cool role and sort of identity within the group that I think more groups need to go into. So if you don't know him, you will know him after today. Brandin Wilkinson with the Bannister Auto Group. Brandin, how are you, man?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing great. And hey, before we get rolling, buddy, I just gotta commend you on all your success with the show, dude. Like, I could only imagine how much of a commitment and discipline and dedication it takes to keep consistent with this kind of stuff. So kudos to you, man.
I appreciate it, man. One of those things people point out to me all the time is like, Sean, you're the most consistent podcast.
Yeah.
Like, nobody cranks out content. Your show will be 286 straight
Oh
months
my goodness.
that we
Oh
have
wow,
the
congrats.
show on these.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
yeah,
we're pretty happy about it. And before we get too started here, Brandin is wearing himself a Blackhawks jersey as an ode and homage to me and my fandom, which I appreciate. However, we should note something that he is in deep enemy territory. Our friends up there in Edmonton are obviously big Edmonton fans. So, but as I mentioned pre-show, my friend and colleague Jeff Hunter, Canadian, also gigantic Oilers fan. So we luck out. But anyone who sees this within the group, just know Brandin was doing it as a solid to me, the host, and it's much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. All right. So everyone's safety, we're ready to go on this. So Brandin, as is customary this year, we like to give guests the opportunity to voice their thoughts. So I'll ask you what I've asked everyone else this year. What are we talking about today?
Awesome, buddy. Thank you for that. So yeah, recently, and like very recent, so September 1st, super blessed to be part of a new initiative. And to your point earlier, Sean, about how I hope that this encourages to some degree, if that's the ripple effect from it, is to have dealers invest, maybe just a little bit more or in their people, or maybe just have them think outside the box a touch, because what the Bannister Group has done starting September 1st is create a new role for me and for the group and for our partners, which is the Director of Leadership and Performance. So basically, man, like more or less full time, I'm a coach. I work with our partners primarily. I work with senior management team. We do one-on-one sessions. We have other programs that we're in the midst of creating and that we have created already, that we're going to be launching out to the rest of our team. And the Bannister Automotive family and the group, like we have 18 stores right now. We have approaching 1,000 team members. So there's a lot of people to support in that aspect, and super excited to get that rocketed and rolling. And the way that this, is okay if I just kind of show you a little bit of backstory, and then I'll just get into kind of where we're at today.
Sounds good, man. Awesome. I lost a little audio on my side, so I don't know what happened there, but we should be okay. We should be up and running and all good now. I'm not positive what happened. So the idea of the director role, was that something, as far as your position, was that something that your group was working on previous to you? Is that something that came about as you came on? What is the the genesis of that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So like there's we had a trailblazer with it already inside the organization with Lori Bannister, and so she's a professional coach, and she was already working with some of the team members before I came on board last year. And my initial role was director of operations, so very much obviously numbers driven. But my passion is definitely always been with people, and so we started to recognize that. I started communicating with Lori a lot more, seeing where I could help out, if any. And it kind of just started small, and then it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger, and got to the point where earlier this year, what we did was in February, we launched a 4-month leadership development program. And we ran 12 of our managers through that. One of them was a partner, so super grateful that he jumped on board and was supportive of it. And so we did 8 modules. We had 8 one-on-one sessions over the course of 4 months. And then at the end, we did a leadership workshop, and it was just kind of like a big wrap-up event. And in that, we had Mark Bannister come on and speak. And then we had Lynn Bannister come up to the front of the room and do, just talk on leadership. We got to, do a little bit of an interview with him and ask questions in the room. It was just a really amazing event, dude. Like, I can't even explain the energy in that room and the vulnerability to share what everybody's experience was like during that coaching program. Because what I found interesting is that even though it was a very structured, almost like autocratic intention with the program, what we ended up doing was like half the coachees actually ended up going down almost more of like a personal development path. It almost became as much about personal coaching and life coaching, let's call it, as it was professional coaching and leadership coaching. And what's ironic, and many people know this, is that like leadership and self are very much the same thing. So all personal development is leadership development, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking, right? Was like when you said that, you were working on business development. I kind of liken that to myself, right? Like I sought out a therapist to talk through my business things, like things that I was just tired of overloading my partners and my wife with, just to throw it at someone else and just leave it there. And of course, you get into a business discussion and 30 seconds in, they're like, well, yeah, but in your personal life, and you're like, oh man, of course we're going to dive into all of this, right? Because it's so interconnected as humans. You can't say what you want, separate work from home. If you are as committed to one as you are the other, finding that line can be very difficult.
Yeah, I'm glad you've been able to experience that, man. So thank you for sharing. That's you can relate, so that's awesome. And so then we wrapped up the 4 months, the kind of like the pilot program, let's call it. Super well received, exceeded all of our expectations. It was almost that thing that people were wanting and waiting for, but would never really voice it to a degree, is kind of what we found. And so then it was like,
before we get too far, you talk about exceeding expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people won't get into what you're doing because they're not sure where to set, how to set. How did you as a group come together and have a discussion about what success looked like on something that was so different and new, something you had never done yourself? What were the measuring sticks there?
It was all green, man. So like we didn't really have a lot of measuring sticks. The one that I will share with you, the one that I'll share with you is we had our partner that was involved in it. And he's the type of person, and I love him to death, and he knows that, and he just has really high standards. He has to have the best of everything. Like it's just how he operates. And so we thought, hey, at the end of this program, if he's on board with it, if he becomes an advocate for it, then we feel like we've really got something here. And so in the end, he was by far our biggest advocate. Everyone else was, of course, as well. But his voice was just kind of carried the loudest, I would say, just because of who he is, but also because he is a partner. And that made it easier to get buy-in from everybody else across the group. And what was cool is like this partner in particular, he's done a lot of work on himself as well. He's done a lot of professional coaching. He's done therapy. Like I should say he's done therapy. I don't know that, but like he's invested a lot in himself essentially, and it made it easier in terms of when we were doing coaching sessions. Like it made that part easier. But because he had done a lot of work on himself, he had high standards and expectations for the program because he's already been through it all. Yeah. And so to come out the other side and have him just be our biggest advocate is incredible. So that was our litmus test for us.
I think advocacy is a huge part of it. I can kind of relate. Obviously we just had our event last week out in Austin, Texas, and the same thing, right? The energy, communication of people in a room, having just put people in a room seemed successful when they started talking amongst each other about their own issues, their own problems at their own level, not from like, boss to employee, but employee to employee, just kind of having this open, you use the word vulnerable, I love the word. I don't think enough people, especially in our industry, allow themselves to go there. I'm fortunate. I've been with my wife 20 years. First thing she did was crack me into vulnerability. I mean, it was what attracted me to her. So for me to be able to do that as someone who, I'm kind of like your partner, man. I was just talking with someone the other day. My expectations are through the roof.
Yeah.
It's like reason number 247. I knew I'd never be a good parent because I would
Yeah.
certainly put that shit on a kid. Like there
Yeah.
would be no doubt that I would just be like, "Yep, nope, you color outside the lines. That's it. Like I gotta keep going until I can find something to color in the line." So that level. So to impress someone who has those high standards is a
Yeah.
great litmus test, right? That's a
Yeah.
tremendous voice. And you talk about buy-in. I'd like to make mention of that. I don't think any of what you're doing is possible without buy-in at the very highest level of our
Right.
automotive
Exactly.
organizations.
That's exactly it, and that's where we get the best support is from our partners and from the Bannister family themselves. It's been nothing short of incredible, Sean. Like candidly, it's been beyond belief. And just to summarize it up real quick, it's like so those expectations that you have and those standards, like I feel like I have the same thing when it comes to people. And this position and my time at Bannisters is by far the most that I've ever felt in terms of like value. And I think that says a lot about the family and their character as well. So it's awesome. So we wrap up the pilot program, and then now it becomes a conversation about how do we turn this into a full-time thing? How can we support 1,000 team members that we have? And then the journey began. And so we have 6 different programs that we're currently either offering or in the process of offering. 3 of which are one-on-one coaching programs, and then the other 3 are like, on-site support, leadership workshops, and rolling out a Bannister University program.
And this is all within your group. You don't bring in exterior of anything. This is all from people within for the people within.
This is it, man. It's all us. Like it's myself, Lori Bannister, and Pam Lowe, the 3 of us that are kind of leading the charge with it. And obviously, to your point, like without that partner's buy-in, without the Bannister's buy-in, there'd only be so far that we could take it. But primarily, Lori and I are the ones doing the coaching. So those 3 one-on-one coaching programs, we're in phase 2 now of our leadership development program. We have about 20 people in that. And then we have continuous coaching. What was really exciting was that from the program, the phase 1 program, everybody that went through that wanted to stay on and continue coaching. And so we're still working with those group of people. And then the 3rd one is what we call leadership within coaching program. And that's for somebody that is maybe a little gun shy on coaching, not quite sure what to expect, don't know what it is, don't want to jump in with both feet into the leadership development program, and just kind of want to get a little bit of a taster for it, I suppose, and kind of explore what it's all about. And then from there, then they would be better prepared to jump into the leadership development program.
Yeah, see, but I love this for various reasons because, first of all, when you see who raises their hand, it tells you as an organization who's invested in their future and who potentially out of a mix of 1,000 people should get. It's not, you can't focus on all 1,000. I know it's easy to say that. I know people do. That's just not a reality at which we can really monetize or live at. So we must find who raises their hand, who puts himself in position. That is very cool to me because then it says to us, how do we fill from our minor league system up to our major league system without having to go outside of our organization and bring someone in? That's exactly you're already doing that. You're stair-stepping people through a program of training without it feeling like training, without it being about you as a group or your, best interest. It is something that is a shared interest. And I got to be honest with you. When I see your posts on LinkedIn, I was going to text you the other day right before you and I started talking about coming on the show, and I was going to say, dude, is this real? Like are you talking about a car dealership? Like the way that you talk about things, it sounds like you work at this like progressive tech company, and not a car dealership. So I'd like to commend your group, the Bannister family, and what they're doing, because this isn't even 1%. This is like 0.01% of what the automotive industry is doing. And it's just amazing to hear, especially when you hear a whole group that went through the all said, I gotta stick with this for the rest of my life. I have to do it. Brandin, let's get into something that's, to me, I want to know about. Yourself.
Okay.
Were you into coaching previous to this? Are you someone who's gone through developmental coaching, whatever that is? Has that been a part of your professional growth to this point?
Yeah, great question, man. Like it has. For as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a parent. I don't know why. Like it's just what it is. And blessed to have two beautiful kids at home now, 13 and 10, and they're into sports and all that stuff. So I mean, I'm living the dream for sure. And I think the way that I relate parenting is like, I think like coaching, parenting, and leadership are all synonymous. Like they're all kind of one and the same. So I think it's always kind of been there. I don't think that it really came to the forefront of my mind in terms of like, how can I help support other people until probably about 7 years ago or so, and 7, 8 years ago. And that really came to be because of my own transformation that I had to go through on a professional and on a personal level. Like I had to, the person you're talking to today certainly is the same person 10 years ago. That's for certain. So I had a lot of growing to do. And on top of that, working at a couple different dealerships, man, like you just see the lack of support, at least in my experience. I'm not saying this is the case across the industry or, anything like that. But certainly in my experience,
you can say it. It is. I mean, I would like to sit here and act like I've been doing this 21 years and somehow shit's different. It's not. This is exactly what we've all been up against.
For sure. Yeah. So I think like my path was like salesperson, sales manager, GM, partner. Let's just like that was it. But nowhere along the lines at all was there ever any kind of discussion around how do we develop you as a leader? How do we help you become a better person so that you can become a better leader? Or whether it's a better leader at home or at work. Because to your point that you mentioned earlier, they're interconnected, right? Yeah. So it was just that's really where the passion started to develop a lot, was through the lack of what was provided to the industry, and I believe still is today, and through my own transformation process that I had to go to, because I've gone to the depth of whatever, and we've all had our own various degrees of it. I feel like I'm better able to support other people that are kind of going through something similar. So.
Yeah, I think that's a big part to think about and for a lot of people to remember. And you say something interesting about how kind of parenting and coaching are interconnected for you, right? And I'm someone who grew up in sports, love sports, so the coaching aspect always made sense. But I had to leave sports because of coaches. So when I was someone that I knew I was an independent thinker, and I knew that didn't really necessarily fit with a lot of what was available, right? And I knew early on, almost the opposite of you, that I knew I wasn't parent material. I knew I could be a great uncle, but I know that I'm too selfish. I'm in my own time. I know who I am, right? I'm confident. Yeah. It's okay with me.
Yeah, I love that.
So the idea of coaching, I mean, Brandin, I get like, I don't know, 20 LinkedIn messages a month of someone trying to sell me coaching or get me involved. And I've never done it. Everything that I do is self-taught. And I don't know if I take pride in that or if I just don't want other people's opinions to cloud my own. But it's a weird discussion because I hear you talk about it and it sounds so wonderful, but it's just not something that I've seen for myself or have ever experienced for myself. And I wonder out loud as we talk about this, like, is something wrong with me? Do you know?
No.
Because of that. But the reality is, yes, there is something wrong with me, not in a bad way, just in a way that I might not need the same things that other people need. And that's okay too.
Oh, it's totally okay. I think the challenging part about coaching, you're having the same conversation that we had back in February with a few people. It was just like, don't know what to expect, never done it before, no idea. And then at the end, they were completely convicted. They had full conviction in what coaching was and how it could support them. So coaching is an experience, and what's interesting is that it is about coaching, but I would say almost more importantly is that it's about the coach. So you mentioned that you had a bad experience with your coaches growing up in sports. And it's like, if the tables would have been turned, you would have had a great experience with the coaches growing up. That may have influenced your belief system around what coaching is today. And you might be more open and receptive to it. And that, like, it's something that you have to experience before you can understand the value of it, I think.
I would agree with you. And I think it's fair to say that it's not really fair to comment on, right? Like I'm smart enough to know, dude, I'm not a parent. So guess what? I don't comment on Parent Matters, dude. What do I look like? Someone wants to walk into a landmine? I don't do that. Even if it's obvious, even if you can see it from a mile away. If you don't have kids, you do not give your opinion to parents. That is just the safest way to go about life.
Right.
But in business, because I've been doing this so long, it's tough for me to hear other opinions about how to do it because I've gotten to where I am because
Yeah.
of my mindset, because of my business. And so it is crazy, man. I've got a buddy of mine that he is a next level coach. He is someone that I respect the hell out of. And
Yeah.
he won't even step over that line with me. And it's the weirdest thing. I'm
No,
always like, why are you not trying to close me? He's like,
no,
you're
no.
not in it. You
Yeah.
don't. When you fail at something or you feel like you need help, then maybe you'll call me. He goes, but if you
Yeah.
just keep doing what you've been doing, you're
Yeah.
not likely to call me, right? So when you
No.
talk with your 20 or the people that went through
Yeah.
it, right, this
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
time, what are they saying? Are you hearing about what they thought versus what happened? Do you have any of those conversations to be able to dig in and say, oh, this is what you thought was going to happen versus what actually came out in the wash?
Yeah, like some of the feedback that we got and some of the testimonials we received was very much like pure skepticism at the start. Didn't know what to expect. I've been through leadership programs before, so my expectations were, X. Like one example was we had one of the coaches go through the program, had been through a leadership program before, and it was very much like, okay, watch this material, read this material, do this homework. It's very structured. And the way that we approached it was very open. It was the way a conversation would start before we got into any of the leadership development material that we had provided as a guide was really like, what would make this conversation today a success for you? And that's where we would start. And if it went down, they're like, no, man, they're like you right now, like crushing it. Everything's amazing. It's awesome. Doing all the things right. Business is booming. Check, check, check. Then it's like, okay, well, then let's get into the material and see what some of your key takeaways were over the last 2 weeks from reflecting on and going through the homework and stuff like that. But if it was like, no, man, I'm having a bit of a struggle in this area, whether it's professional or having a little bit of a struggle in this area and it's personal, then we would go down that path. And I think that that's what the feedback was in our experience was that that's the part that they really valued because it was all about them. It didn't matter. There was no talk about numbers. There was no talk about performance. It was all about, and what's ironic about all this, I find anyway, is that, we, as an industry, we have these 30-day cycles, as we know. It's performance, push, push, push. I heard somebody say that actually wrote a leadership book in the industry say like his philosophy is good is never good enough. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, we're reinforcing a belief system that we're never enough. And then
That's
it's
what I'm
no
talking
wonder,
about, right? That's a whole professionalism or the whole perfectionism
right,
thing for me, right? It's the same thing.
right,
It's like, are you enough? Did you do enough? Will you put your family in a position to have enough? Like, because we're a 30-day swing. Like tomorrow, right? When this show airs on October the 2nd, we're already 1 day into September not mattering. To
right,
people
totally,
in our industry, to the figures, and I've never gotten it. I've never bought
yeah,
into it. I've never understood the management push for the last 3 days of the month. I'm going to be here next month.
yeah,
So I don't know why I'm trying to empty a funnel just to hit a arbitrary number. I never gave a shit, if I'm being honest with you,
yeah,
Brandon. I cared
yeah,
about the client
yeah,
in the cycle. I didn't
yeah.
care about the cycle and then the client. So
Yeah, you nailed the word arbitrary. It's all made up, right?
by the manufacturer, by the dealer, or by yourself, there is not, and we're the only industry, I think, that expects so much incremental growth every single
Right.
year. So when I started CarBiz and we didn't do that our first 3 years, man, I was
Yeah.
banging my face. What the hell are we doing? How did we not get 8% over last year? And my wife was like, that ain't how things work. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? This is how dealerships work. So yeah, man, there's a really high level of expectation that arbitrarily is put on people and pressure is there ensues, again, unnecessarily. So you said something though that I want to get back to. Inside the coaching realm, people expected this to be a box, right? This is very rigid. This is that. You guys came in and said, let's customize. Let's talk about what's important to you, you, and to you. And that right away is a turn on for me because at the end of the day, I don't do anything the same for any client, right?
Right.
What we deliver is the same, right? How we deliver it, we have our own methodology. That is the same. What is in it, what is said, what is spoken about is absolutely not the same. So when you develop that as a group, Was that a big focus of you all when you were starting to create this kind of agenda and this
Yeah.
curriculum? Was it the
Yeah.
idea of being open and not being too rigid?
No.
No.
Like it wasn't even in the discussion. I think coaching is a very personal experience. So the goal going into it was, number one, first and foremost, provide the safest place possible for this person. Like that way, like if they may not have anybody else to go to, man. Like if you're inside the dealership, you may not feel safe enough for whatever reason to go to your manager. At home, you're like, I don't want to bring stuff home to my spouse. And so this is the safest place where you can say whatever it is that needs to be said. You can express whatever it is. Man, we had we had tears of joy, we had tears of sadness, we had celebrations, we had people events. It was just anything and everything was on the table, and every single person came out of that program as a better leader. And that's the goal. I don't give two shits how we get there. It doesn't have to be by a structured program or anything like that. If that's the avenue that we take and that's what serves you the best and that's what you relate to the best, which happens, awesome. Let's do it. I'm all in. Cool.
Much like our bottom lines, Brandon, the net is what matters. The rest of it is I don't really care. I don't want to break any laws. I don't want to upset anyone, sure. But at the end of the day, the net is the net. And if people can be safe, you can go through that wide range of emotion, right? In one place. Now your employees feel like not only are they people, but you're people. And you must have all come closer over this session. I'm guessing the people who are involved want to stay involved because you're there, Lori's there, whatever that mix is, it's a comfort level of employees, dude. So are you guys expecting this to reduce turnover or impact your ability to put in your next manager? Or is it just to develop people and maybe they'll leave your group and go do something else? Like what is it for you guys that is going to be the net result that says, man, I'm so glad we have this program?
I think great question, man. I think that those will certainly be byproducts of it. But most importantly, it's just you have to meet the masters. They are so genuine. They just truly want what's best for the people that are a part of their family and a part of their group. And that's the goal. It's like if we can help somebody, like I was just on a coaching call this morning with one of our partners, and we're going through this conversation, and I was sharing with them, I was like, my goal in each conversation, even if it's just a smidge, is just to help you feel that much better about yourself or have a heightened level of energy. Because I know that that's the start of momentum. And I know that that's going to have a ripple effect when he goes back down on the floor and communicates with his team. So it's really just all about the person. It's all about the person that's sitting across from you when you're doing the coaching session. We're not thinking about anything else at that point. Will there be better retention? Yes. Will it help recruitment? Absolutely. Will it improve our bench strength? 100%. But those are all byproducts of what we're most importantly focused on, which is just the best.
You guys want your employees to feel heard. You want them to have a place to go, to feel like there's a development who's out there for them. I always tell people the best company I ever worked for was the Men's Warehouse. All right. This is like late 90s Men's Warehouse. George Zimmer's on the commercials. You guys had a company in Canada that he ended up buying. I think it was Moore's Suits. It was a similar approach.
Moore's, yeah.
Right. And so you went there, you got hired, you were an assistant, you did the shirts, the ties, you did the whole deal, but you didn't sell anything. You didn't make any commission. Once they realized you were the guy, they flew you out to San Jose, California to go through Suits U. I shit you not. And it was 2 weeks of intensive training through everything that was going to matter to you, the fabric, the quality, the material, where it came from, who it was. And the man himself came in and spoke every single day to these classes to tell them where he came from, his passion, his drive. So one morning, our first morning, we had all partied the night before, and I was a little rough. And I'm in the bathroom before we get started. The guy walks in, no name tags, no nothing, and he just goes, "Sean, I'm looking forward to working with you." Whoa. I've never met this man. This is the dude. Like I am like shaking. I can't believe he's talking to me. and you realize that that's what true leadership is to know everything about everybody, but not even share it until it makes sense, right? Until you bring it to the
Right.
forefront, until they
Yeah.
ask for it. So you talk
Yeah.
about the development and being heard, and the momentum. And I think as hockey fans, we get that, right? The next
Yeah.
shift. If you
Yeah.
guys are out there and you post, the next time out, the momentum's rolling. The shots are there. The team is there. You can see momentum shift in the sport of
Yeah.
hockey, I think,
Yeah.
more than any other sport in the world, because of the
Yeah.
speed of it. And
Yeah.
so the reaction, now that you're here and you've looked back on this first time,
Yeah.
are you as did you think this would did you even expect it to be this of what it is? Did you expect all the people to want to continue? Did you expect this to be an ongoing thing when you first thought about it? Or is this something that you were like, I hope this works? Like, really, on your level of commitment, where were you as of now on this whole thing?
No, I knew it was gonna happen because like I think that we're all creators, right? Like we're all capable of creating whatever it is we want in this life. I mean, we've certainly done it to this point. And I think like the reason why I was so confident in it is because of who the Bannisters are. I cannot emphasize that enough. You know what it's like, man, when you're aligned with somebody and you share the same uh values and principles in life. It's just like it's a win-win
Magic.
situation. Yeah, it
Right.
is, man. And that's what it was about. And I felt that with the partners as well. And it was like once you get in, it's man, it's like we are a hockey team. It's like every time we have a performance meeting, I feel like I'm in the dressing room preparing for a hockey game out or after. Like it's incredible. And so yeah, I knew without any sense of doubt that once we got things rolling, like yeah, okay, we're onto something, and this is going to be pretty special. So and
But that's because
hopefully
of
we
who
can
you
follow through.
work for, right? That's what you're
Yeah,
saying, Brandon. Your
yeah,
point is that the only reason you feel this level of confidence, this level of ability and drive is because you know the people backing you, the pit crew, the
correct.
team around you is going to go to they're going to go to the wall for you. They're going to do whatever is required. And I got to
Yeah,
say, man, people don't hear that very often, especially here in the States, right? That's
okay, yeah,
definitely not. I mean, there might be like a handful of groups I've heard of in my history.
yeah.
1998, so I'm coming up on 25 years in this silly industry.
Wow, yeah,
I've never, I've never heard anyone speak. Not anyone, but I don't hear a lot of people speak about
yeah,
groups the way that you've spoken about your group. I think I told you pre-show. Most people are 50-50 on even mentioning where they work when they come
yeah,
on my show.
yeah.
And so I don't know if that's because I'm a dirty little secret or if it's because
No,
they
no.
don't talk about where they work. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But for me, I see it
yeah,
as a reason to be there, right? Like I wear my brand, I have my brand everywhere I
yeah,
go.
yeah,
If I
yeah,
fly on an airplane for a work event, the hat's on, a shirt's on, someone
yeah.
sees it, someone knows it. I don't care if it applies to people I see or not. That's where I'm at. That's what I respect of my brand. So with the Bannisters being there as the rock that they are for you,
Yeah.
how do you see this growing? Now that it has begun, you've planted the seed, you've
Cool.
watered this. How do you see this turning into a plant? And to what extent do you have a vision for its future?
Well, I think ultimately, like you can hear the truth and the passion that I have for the Bannister family, the partners, all of that. Like ambitiously, it would be amazing if we could have that same level of feeling in all 1,000 people that work with us right now, and as it continues to grow. Like that's like to have the same like it's a meaning that like I don't want to take away that that's not the case, but I think being a realist, I probably can say with confidence that not all 1,000 people feel the same level of passion that I do. So can we help them get there? Absolutely. It's a big question because like it's the we're really just taking it one converse. This is gonna sound, but like just taking it one conversation at a time and letting it build its own momentum. We have a tremendous amount of momentum right now. We are like growing fast as a company, like as the dealer group continues to expand. Like man, could there be three of me, four of me, five of me, or of these roles? Like, yeah, absolutely. As we continue to grow, what I do see is continued investment in this program and continued buy-in from the partners without question. Like, we're on our way. Like, we're running, we're going. So,
Investment's a big part, right? People be
yeah,
invested in a concept, an idea. As an industry, we're great at starting things. We're pretty bad at following through and finishing them, in
true.
my experience. And
Yeah,
so the fact that
yeah,
you feel like you have that backing and you can go there with people, that means a lot, to the individuals that are there. So with the next round of people, is this a hand raising scenario? Is this a hand pick scenario? We have 1,000 employees. We started with 20 or we started with 10, whatever it was. How are we getting to the next groups and iterations of this within the organization?
Oh man, I love your curiosity and questions. You've done this before, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. There's a couple times I've been down the road.
Okay, so the first round was really like it was a little bit more of a selective process. So if I'm just talking about the one program right now, which is the leadership development program, like the 4-month process that we go on with our team, it's going to be a little bit more capped because that's the challenge with one-on-one coaching is that it's not scalable. Like we'd have to have whatever.
You'd have to have a team, dude.
Coaches.
It couldn't just be you. That's not how it works,
No,
right? We say that
no.
all the time with reps who are like, "Oh, I work with 140 stores." You're like, "Oh, we're screwed." Like,
yeah, exactly.
There's no way. There's just
Not
you're one
chance.
person. You know, that's why my company's capped. You know, we're capped, and I'm at my cap on my side of things. And so people ask me all the time, "Well, doesn't that piss you off to miss business and pass up?" No, because at the end of the day, I know that the people that pay me are happy getting the support that they need. So for me to take an extra buck, but to give my client over here less attention, that don't make sense. That doesn't pencil for me. So because of the size of scale right now, we are being selective. Talk me through a little bit, if you can, the selection process.
It's really to what you said before. It's kind of like it starts with a hand raising process. You know, you shared a story about you and your good friend there that's a coach. One of the reasons why he's not taking you on is because you're not putting up your hand. And it makes it a lot more, right? Like it makes it a lot more challenging to work with somebody if they're just like not even prepared to put their hand up at all. And so like just we wanted to start the program off by working with the people that were willing to raise their hands, wanted to be coached. That was a great experience. And really the same kind of process for the second one. We had a little bit more not support, but we had a little bit more help from the partners in terms of
you have buy-in, you have cachet now, you have people within your group who've talked about their experience, you have testimonials, right?
Yeah.
You have that part of it, which is a little bit easier to get.
Makes it a lot easier. So in the second phase, we had our partners a little bit more involved. And what they did was they're like, hey, like kind of nudged us in the direction of, a couple of people that they thought would be a good fit for it from what they've seen, what they heard about the first phase of the program. But again, like we had to cap it. So we've capped that number at 20 and we'll probably keep it there until the program grows, and then we can bring on a third coach, and then we'll grow that. So that's for the leadership development program. And then for the leadership within program, where that's a little bit more of, say, like life coaching or intro into coaching, that one's definitely a little bit more selected from our end. And these are all right now for the one-on-one coaching. Typically, it's all managers. Like it's all, whether you're a service manager, parts manager, fixed ops, general manager, whatever it is. Like if you have a management title, that's who we're starting with. Not because leadership is about the title, but because that's where everything starts and goes down. So yeah.
I mean, I know we live in a culture where we have to be like safe with our words. The reality is that in order to be a leadership, is typically attached to a manager. Now, do I see people in sales roles that will make great leaders? Absolutely. That's a different role for me. If I'm being honest, that coaching trajectory is different than those with the established title of manager. And I think that's the only fair way to approach it. I don't like titles either. People always ask me, are you the CEO? Are you the founder? I'm like, dude, I just work here. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. We just threw this event in Austin. People were like, oh my God, whose idea is this? It was mine, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. The event is the event. I partnered with people who's responsible. Doesn't matter. What is the net? What have we accomplished? Right?
Yeah, good for you. Yeah. So in terms of one-on-one coaching, that's kind of the process. So I would say it would vary on the selective side of it, but also balance with obviously hand raisers. Those are our primary coachees. Hey, putting my hand up, I want to be coached. Okay, yeah, let's do it. If you have a management title, you're pretty much in. And then in terms of reaching more people, that's where we'll do, like I've done leadership workshops already with a couple of our stores. So that way we can reach more people in one area. And then our dealership visits, we'll get into that, where like we could work with a department, let's say, like maybe there's one department inside one store that's just for whatever reason kind of struggling getting things going, getting whether it's team building or team buy-in, what have you, then we're there as a support system to help them create that for themselves. And then the big one, to be able to support as much as we can everybody inside the organization, that's where Bannister University is going to come in, and we'll collaborate, whether it's with like a Udemy, BetterUp, or somebody like that. We'll collaborate with them to give access and create our own to our team members, and create our own courses and our own content as well to put on there. Yeah.
Well, obviously, I'm a big fan of anything that's, Bannister University. I think that because I've been through that, like I said, it was the coolest company I ever worked for. It was the best culture I was ever involved in. And it was something that ruined me, honestly, because then I went to other places. It wasn't like that. I don't want to do this, right? This sucks.
Yeah.
And then I got in the car business, and yes, the money was better, but the culture was way worse. And I grew up in the Chicago car business, which is notoriously not easy and not for the faint of heart, if you will, but because of it, it helps us be who we are, right? It helps us battle through that. So you've been more than generous with your time. I want to wrap this up with one big question for you. Is, I know that this might seem contrarian to what you're talking about, but how would you recommend that other groups, other people in our industry start the discussion of what you've created? And full well, you and I both know you could give them the whole blueprint right now. 99% of them won't actually do it. But I want to know, for that one dealer, that one group that wants to get started, what would you tell them, Brandon?
I think we have a tendency to try and figure everything out on our own for the most part, especially the more senior we get inside organizations and dealerships. So I would suggest actually taking the opposite approach. I would recommend surveying, canvassing, like asking questions like, how can we support you better? And ask that across your group, and especially with your management team, like, what are we missing? What are we not doing? What do you want us to do less of? What do you want us to do more of? Just start inquiring, get curious, find out what it is that you don't understand yet from your team that they're searching for and they want. And I can almost promise you that they're going to come back and be like, hey, more development, please. Need some help here.
Wow. I mean, as simple as it gets, people. Ask questions, be inquisitive, and care about the people that we do business with, that are doing business on behalf of us in most cases from a dealership group. Man, Brandon, this was awesome, dude. I really appreciate you bringing this to me, a topic of idea. And again, we'll say it one more time. Kudos to Bannister Auto Group for not only seeing this, but investing in it and buying in and sticking with it. Enough cannot be said about people who are willing to do that, man. So thank you, and thank them so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for bringing me on, pal. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You are more than welcome, my friend. Opening night of hockey, not too far away. So I'm an excited one there. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Next week on the show, I'm going to give you a little recap of my feelings and thoughts about what happened out in Austin, Texas back in late September. Thank you guys so much. Have yourselves a wonderful week.